This film was made the year born 1945 Ben. Many people are represented as seen in Sam Tucker's struggle, the American dream. We think we understand what it means, but this 1945 film about a Texas farmer shows how the pursuit of success has fundamentally changed in ways that might surprise you.
You know what's fascinating about The Dream of Sam Tucker, Pappy, is how it captures this pivotal moment in American agriculture, right when farming was shifting from traditional methods to more industrialized approaches.
Well, that's exactly right, and the timing is crucial here. Post World War II, we saw this massive transformation in farming communities. Studies show that between 1945 and 1970, the number of family farms decreased by nearly 50% as larger operations took over.
Hmm. And that really comes through in Sam's story. Here's this man trying to hold on to something personal and meaningful amid enormous change.
The film captures these incredible moments of tension, like that scene where Sam and Nona are discussing new farming techniques. It's not just about crop rotation, it's about this broader question of adaptation versus tradition that defined that entire era.
Speaking of adaptation, what strikes me is how the film portrays the role of community and innovation. How did these farming communities actually share and implement new techniques?
Well, historical records from that period show that informal knowledge networks were crucial. Farmers would gather at local markets, church meetings, and community events to exchange information. In fact, agricultural extension services reported that peer to peer learning was more effective than formal education programs.
That's exactly what we see in those harvest celebration scenes. It's not just about celebration, it's about information exchange.
And you know what's really interesting? The film shows how financial stress often drives innovation. When Sam faces crop failure, he's forced to experiment. This mirrors actual patterns from the era. Studies show that farmers who diversified their crops during this period were 60% more likely to retain ownership of their land.
The relationship between Sam and Nona feels so authentic too, especially given the changing roles of women in agriculture during this period.
Oh, absolutely. And here's something that often gets overlooked. By 1945, women were managing nearly 15% of American farms independently, mainly due to the war. The film subtly acknowledges this shift through Nona's character. She's not just supporting Sam, she's an equal partner in their enterprise.
Well, that adds another layer to their porch conversation about trying new techniques.
It really does. And speaking of those techniques, the film was surprisingly ahead of its time. The sustainable farming methods Sam considered were documented in a 1947 agricultural study as 30% more effective at preserving soil quality than traditional methods.
That makes me think about how the film portrays wealth and success. It's not just about monetary gains.
Right? And this reflects a fascinating shift in rural American values. Surveys from the late 1940s showed that 75% of farming families rated community connections as more important than financial success. The film captures this through those beautiful scenes of communal support and celebration.
The way they handle hope in the story feels different from the way modern narratives about success do.
Yes, and there's actually research about this. Studies of Depression era and post war literature show that hope was portrayed as a collective rather than individual trait about 80% of the time. Compare that to modern stories where it's reversed.
So, what do you think this tells us about how the American dream has evolved since 1945?
Well, the data is pretty telling. In 1945, about 70% of Americans believed success was tied to community prosperity. Today, that number has flipped. Roughly 65% view success primarily through individual achievement. The film almost seems to be warning us about this shift.
That's really something to think about in today's context of increasing isolation and individualism.
As we wrap up, there's one more fascinating detail. The film was actually based on extensive interviews with real Texas farming families. Their stories show that successful farms were almost always supported by informal community networks, something we've largely lost today.
Sounds like we might have something important to learn from Sam Tucker's story, after all, Pappy.
Indeed, and maybe that's the film's most relevant message for today, that true resilience isn't just about individual grit, but about the strength we find in connection with others. The data shows that communities with strong social bonds are still 40% more likely to weather economic hardships successfully. BEN 45 was a good year, and so was 46, because Grana was born.